The man awoke. It was common for him to be the first to rise in the family. But being the first to rise comes with a set of problems when you live in a tiny box. For the man could have at least an hour of peace and quiet, but only if he could get out of bed and make a coffee without waking anyone up. He awkwardly attempted to climb over his wife without waking her. He sighed. One day he would love to have a north-south bed. He began the daily struggles of living in a tiny box and started moving items around to create space for him to get some work done. He noticed the dishes had not been dried and put away last night. This would mean he would have to attempt to silently get the dishes away without waking the rest of the Van family. His wife awoke with a start after hearing the clanging and clattering of the dishes being put away. She thought to herself, could he be any louder? But then, as the haze of sleep wore off, she considered that the man has requested many, many, many times that the dishes be dried and put away at the end of the night, as she doesn't have to cook. So she really couldn't complain, and so she closed her eyes and pretended to remain asleep. With the dishes put away, the man could finally make his morning coffee. G'day Van fam.
Good morning.
Welcome back to another video. This week we're staying in a little town called Aniba. Aniba?
Aniba.
Is that how it's pronounced?
Oh, I think
probably not.
We're going to get roasted. Sorry, guys.
Kind of sounds like a disease or something.
I think that's an amoeba.
But guys, look, we're travelling south at the moment. We stopped in Geraldton for a week and I've done some work and we're making our way down to Perth. We've got the D-Max booked in to get a long-range tank put in.
Very exciting. Yay!
And we're not doing a lot of exploring. We are just kind of killing time. We pulled into this little, what is it, a council-run park?
Yeah, it's like an oval. Big oval.
So yeah, we're out on this oval. And it's actually really nice.
Yeah,
it said that they were going to charge $5 per person. So the councilman came around this morning, and as he came around, he said, how many people? We said 4, and he said, well, no, how many adults?
Yeah.
So they're not charging for the kids. No parent tax.
Yay! So it's $10 a night. They have flushing toilets, hot showers. There's a playground.
Heaps of space for the kids. So we're going to stay here.
Area.
We've got a few days to kill until the booking. We were eyeing off this bush camp. That looked all right, but that was $30 a night for nothing. So we're really happy here.
We
I think
are really happy.
We're just going to sit and stay here.
And the best part about this, the council provides balls and there's a basketball court. So the kids are learning basketball, which is pretty fun.
We've been playing a bit of basketball. So yeah, look, really enjoying it out here. But guys, we're not doing a lot of exploring. So we thought we'd do something a little bit different in this week's video, like the intro, which gave a little bit of an insight into our daily struggles. But I've been playing around with ChatGPT lately. And ChatGPT, well, I asked it the question. If you don't know what ChatGPT is, it's basically AI and it's incredible. And if you're not fiddling around with it, you really should because it's quite fun. But I asked it the question, what are the top 10 questions people want to know about traveling Australia? And it asked a really good lot of questions. So we're going to go outside and
just off
have
the
a
cuff,
sit and
no research, and just
tackle
give it a
these
crack.
top 10 questions about traveling Australia, and hopefully we'll provide something valuable and you'll get something out of it. So yeah, we're going to go and enjoy a shower, get cleaned up, and then we'll catch you outside and tackle ChatGPT's questions. All right, ChatGPT, hit us with your first question.
What's the best time of year to travel around Australia in a caravan?
I don't think we're the right people to answer this question.
No, I don't think we've ever got this right. Well, maybe when we first started. But
we tried to. Well, when we first started, we went north in winter and went up to
Cape York.
Cape York. But look, you want to be south in summer and north in winter. That's the ideal thing about caravanning.
But then there's also other weather changes. Like WA's windy from September to April, so you don't want to be over there then.
There's too many variables, and it's really hard to get it right. To try and do a lap around Australia and get every season right, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, you got to be really lucky, and that's
like
just
I
not
think
us.
you've got to pick your key parts that you want to go to, and you want to time them correctly. So let's say Ningaloo is the place that you want to get to and you want to experience it in all its glory. Then you want to hit that one in July when it's not windy, when the conditions are nice and you can really enjoy it.
You want to go to Cape York, you've got to hit it right at the right season before it gets crazy busy with school holidays.
There are, exactly. You want to hit some of these peak things outside of school holidays.
During the week times,
if possible. Like Gib River Road, you'd like to hit early in the season when there's still water in the creeks.
Or it's just been graded.
And it's still pretty, and the roads are usually in a better condition early in the season. So I think to answer that question, there is not really a way to do it.
No, I don't think there is.
I think what you need to do is pick the things that you're going to do, the things that you really want to experience at the best time, and do some research on those and hit them at the right time of year.
Unless we're doing it completely wrong, but I think sometimes
I just think it's not possible,
it's just
to be frank.
Possible.
Yeah. And then it's to say, oh, well, let's do Queensland coast in winter because it should be warmer up there. Well, it's been raining for
6 months
straight. 6 months straight this year because of El Nino and La Nina. Like, to be frank, there's no right way to do it as far as seasons, other than trying to be south in summer and north in winter.
Yeah,
there's not really.
With the weather changes, like Tassie's just been hit with this huge floods across the whole state. So, like, if you're there, you're buggered in a caravan for sure.
So we don't really have an answer to that question,
we don't have
unfortunately, other than that general advice of pick your spots and do your research, because they're all going to be different. Yeah. They're all going to have different seasons when it is best to do them, and to try and time that like this, I'm not sure it's possible.
Yeah. And, you know, when you do go in the not peak times, it's also great because it's very chilled and not as crazy.
Well, that's a really good point. So we've often find ourselves out of season. We were just down in the southwest of WA for winter, where we explored Bridgetown in all its glory, or Fridgetown as they call it. And we had to extend our stay. And on the day of extending our stay, the caravan park was only half full. And they're like, yeah, no worries. And not only that, but they usually have stay 3, pay 2 deals.
Plus
and things like that.
cheaper prices.
And we went and did a tour of the caves, which we booked the day of. There's no booking issue. So being out of season has its advantages as well.
It does.
All right, ChatGPT, let's hit us with one that maybe we can answer. What's question number 2?
How much does it cost to caravan around Australia for a year?
Hey, it's one that we can answer.
Well, this one I mainly take the responsibility for. I track all of our expenses in an Excel spreadsheet because Excel's free. So
I do the dutiful husband thing, and I collect every receipt.
Yes, and passes it to me.
Contribute.
It's also a handy tip too, because every time I go to a petrol station, I keep the receipt for at least a week in case there's an issue with fuel, just to be sure, because, you know, dirty fuel sometimes.
But we do know how much it costs us to travel Australia, and it's probably more expensive than we thought it would be, and probably more expensive than most people think it would be. It costs us somewhere around $70,000 to $90,000 a year to travel around Australia with our 2 kids.
Yep.
That's to feed us, to pay for our accommodation, to cover all of our insurances, cover all of our living costs, everything that we have. There's pretty much every year there's one catastrophe, one expensive thing that blows us out by around $10,000, one unexpected expense.
And also, you know, bills obviously go up each year. You know, we've had a few things break on the caravan, so our insurance goes up. You know, the insurance goes up on the car. You've got your rego for both vehicles, and all those kinds of things.
It's not getting any cheaper, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I would say that I think relative to many people and the way that many people travel, we travel on the cheaper side.
Yeah.
For example, we are currently sitting in a paddock at $10 a night because well, look, we're comfortable here. We've got time to kill, but because it's cheaper, and we make that choice a lot of time. And we don't do a lot of activities because we're trying to cut our living expenses.
I mean, there are free camps down the road, but this one has showers, toilets, there's a park for the kids, there's a big, huge field. They can play with all their planes and stuff. So it's nice to just be in an area like this.
I think if you were going to travel around, stay in a lot of caravan parks and take on a lot of activities and eat out, I think you could go well in excess of 120 to 150 grand a year to travel around Australia.
We eat out very rarely, and we literally, when we get to a place that we've been off grid for a week, there's literally nothing in our fridge. Like, we eat everything we buy. So
yeah, I think the point is we definitely travel on the cheaper side, and it's costing us. It's ranged from 70 to 83 grand per year, depending on unexpected expenses. So it's not getting any cheaper. We'll say that.
yeah.
All right, let's take on the next question.
What are the essential items to take on a caravan trip?
Well, geez, how long is a piece of string, mate?
Because everyone is different. That's the big thing. Like, we can say what we take, but that can be different to somebody else as well.
There are a bunch of caravan accessories that you're going to need to go out and get before you go out and travel. Once you pick up your caravan, you don't have everything that you need.
Yeah.
You're going to need watering things, so hoses, fittings.
Your grey water, stinky slinky, grey water hose.
We have a whole boot full of those things. You need chocks and leads. If you don't have an airbag suspension system, you're going to need a step so that you can level out the caravan.
And then just things to make life easier for you as well. Like, we need a step, or you've got a mat to wipe your feet so the caravan doesn't get disgusting.
There is, honestly, the list is endless. But I'll say one thing, though. I think caravanning is compromised these days. You just can't have everything. The things that you take, you would like them to have multiple purposes.
Yeah, it's like we used to have hose bags, but we just found them, they was just another piece of thing to put something in. Sometimes you don't need all of that.
I think you need to cut down your hobbies to your most important hobbies. So maybe you like riding mountain bikes. Well, you can have bikes, but then you probably can't have a boat and fishing equipment and golf clubs.
You can't have everything.
Say you like fishing. Well, maybe you can have a boat, but you can't have the golf clubs and the mountain bikes. You've got to choose the things that you... Maybe you like cooking, so you can have
kids, you rotate as well. So we rotate a lot of the stuff that they have, so they don't have it for the whole year. We'll rotate it out because obviously they get bored of it and you don't want them being bored.
Kids don't need a lot of toys and a lot of crap to travel around Australia. They find ways to entertain themselves outside. Right now, Owen's down at the basketball court throwing a basketball. Kaylee's using some pens and papers and drawing inside. Yeah. They don't need a lot. And, yeah, I mean, that's not an easy question to answer in one thing, because it could be an entire video unto itself to explain all the things that you need.
The things that you use all the time that are really important, I think, go spend the money on. Like,
invest in nice chairs.
Invest in nice chairs because you're sitting on them all the time. Get good drink bottles. Like, because you're drinking out of all the time.
Get some Yeti cups.
Get some Yeti cups.
Find yourself a Yeti stubby cooler if you're lucky.
So, you know, there's things that are important that you use all the time. Spend the money on them because you will not regret that choice.
And the list is endless. Yeah. Honestly, guys, the list is endless. But I would say to try and keep it minimal, because if you take too much things, you've got issues with your weight, you've got issues with storage. And honestly, I find having too much things
in the cupboards is really annoying.
It takes away from the enjoyment. You know, you can get by with less. You really can. All right, let's move on to a question that might have an easier answer.
How do you find free or affordable campsites in Australia?
Well, that's a good one. One that we can answer.
I like this one.
We've got quite a few little tips and tricks and hacks for this, don't we?
We do. What do we use?
I mean, number one is WikiCamps.
Even though it's slow, we still use it.
Yeah, I don't know what they did to WikiCamps, but it's been destroyed. It's very irritating to use, but there's nothing else that compares, so it's still our number one tool.
Yeah.
Basically, while Mel rides Passenger Princess, it's often when we do a lot of searching for where we're camping.
I'll look at things on the way. If there's points of interest, I'll be looking at WikiCamps. We also use Caravan overnight farm stays.
So that is a yearly paid service that gives you access to farmers that are signed up to the program, and they'll let you go out and camp on the property. And we've had some of the most unique and awesome camps at this place. Yeah. I think if you can catch one camp at a Caravan overnight farm stay instead of having to go to a caravan park, it simply pays for itself.
And depending on the farmer, it might be like $10 per person. Kids are usually free, or $15 an RV for the night. And, you know, usually they've got a big space, big property. Sometimes they even have like facilities for you. So it just depends.
We've used hip camps in the past, but I find hip camps very hit and miss. Yeah. More miss than hit, to be honest. And hip camps is really expensive as well. We find with hip camps, they've paid photographers to go out to the campsites, and these photographers make it look a lot better than it ends up being, and make you think, oh, maybe it's worth the $60 a night to go out there, and it's often not. and it's quite disappointing and underwhelming.
The other one is other travellers. When you meet them and talk to them, they'll be like, oh, there's a great spot here, here, or here. So that's another thing. And I just have a list on my phone, honestly, and I just go through it wherever we are.
So I think these days we really only have two go-tos. We use Wikicamps. We'll search up for free camps on there. If we can't find something on that, we'll go to Caravan overnight farm stays, or sometimes beforehand. I'll say that there are fewer farms available. There's a lot more free camps or Wikicamps than there are with overnight farm stays. So they're a bit more few and far between.
They are getting more, and I think that there's more, even though it's sometimes a bit out of town, say 15 Ks, it's definitely worth it than paying in caravan parks because you're just right next to your neighbours.
So we'll filter for camps instead of caravan parks if we can't find anything. That's when we'll turn on caravan parks. And read reviews, guys. It's really important on Wikicamps. Even though you have to wait 5 minutes for them to bloody load these days, you need to read the reviews because it'll help you dodge a few bullets.
And even if whatever rewards partners you're signed up to, whether it be G'day, Big
That's a really good
point. Check the rewards because we just got a free night at a caravan park when it was raining because we had a G'day give you one free night accommodation. They give you upgrades a year. You have a free bag of ice every stay. So make sure you check
we're signed, because we're full-time, we're signed up to every rewards program for every caravan park. And some of them work out all right. We just did get a free night at a caravan park, or they'll give us a free upgrade next time we go. So there's that as well. But I think that's pretty much all we're using these days. All right, let's tackle the next one.
What are the legal requirements for towing a caravan in Australia?
Well, this is a bit of a prickly, hotly debated topic, I think.
The answer to the question perhaps is no, there's no license requirement to tow a caravan.
However, before we left, I went and paid a professional to take me on a towing course because I had never towed or driven anything bigger than a Corolla. So for me, it was more a confidence thing, and getting that professional knowledge from someone who's been doing it a really long time was super helpful for me. He did try and teach me how to park the caravan, but no go. I still suck at it 3 years later. But towing, driving, parking it at the shops, I feel 100% more confident than if I hadn't have done it. So that's something to do.
That was more of just a feeling comfortable driving. He didn't take you through the legal requirements any kind of things like that.
I felt safer going on the road knowing what I had to do towing a caravan of this size.
There are some legal requirements in towing a caravan. One would be that you need to be roadworthy. So to be roadworthy, you need to be within your weight tolerances. So there are a whole load of caravan weight numbers that you need to understand, and you need to make sure that your caravan and your vehicle are compliant. If you're not, if you were to be pulled over and weighed, which happens often in Queensland, you could be fined. Or worse than that, if you were to have an accident and they weighed your setup, it's possible that the insurance agency might use that to avoid your insurance.
Avoid your claim.
Understanding your weights and making sure you're compliant on your weight numbers is a compliance requirement. Another one that's a compliance requirement is towing mirrors. Yes. You need to have vision behind the caravan, and to do that, you need to have towing mirrors on. I'll see if I can find a little diagram thing and slide that in front of Mel to give you a bit of an idea of what that's supposed to look like. Aside from that, there isn't really any legal requirements, and there's no formal licensing requirements. If there were formal licensing requirements, they would teach you these things and a few other things as well. Different states have different rules, and this isn't scripted, so I haven't had a chance to do my research and confirm this, but there are some states where you're not allowed to tow a caravan faster than 100 kilometres per hour. And I think there are some states where you can. So understanding that. UHF radios, they're not a legal requirement.
But they are really useful, especially if you're going out back where there's road trains. So you can speak to the truckies and say, oh, is it safe for us to pass you? Because it might be like a road train with 4 things behind it, so
they'll call you forward when you're allowed to pass. But also the really wide vehicles will have a pilot vehicle, and that pilot vehicle will come down the road and they'll say, vehicles heading southbound across this bridge, please don't come now. And if you don't know that, you're on the bridge and there's a wide load on the bridge, there's nowhere to go. So it's really good to have yourself a UHF radio.
It's more a safety concern too. You can let other travellers know if something's wrong with their van as well as you're driving past.
So I can't remember specifically the question. Are there legal requirements to tow a caravan?
No, there's no legal licensing
No, but there are definitely things that you should know, and you should take the time to educate yourself on them.
How do you stay connected to the internet while caravanning?
Well, life has changed in this respect, hasn't it?
When we first started, it was quite a challenge. We would leapfrog from reception area to reception area, but now, thanks to Starlink,
we can have internet wherever we are,
Yeah.
anywhere in Australia, and it is phenomenal. If
It
you
is.
need to be connected like we do for work and school, having Starlink is an absolute game changer. As Mel mentioned, life for us used to be a case of leapfrogging from one place of mobile reception to the other, and
Yeah.
we could only ever go off-grid for 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And then we would have to find somewhere with signal so that Mel could get in and do her work. So
yeah, for school as well. So we still have actually the little Telstra Nighthawk. We still use it sometimes. We're parked under trees, so we need it.
And we have a MIMO antenna that boosts the range of those, and that was our solution up until Starlink came along.
Yep.
And we maintain that too, because as Mel mentioned, sometimes
We purchased it. We didn't want to get rid of it, and sometimes we're under trees in caravan parks.
That's
or
right.
something.
Starlink needs a line of sight to the sky, and if you're parked under trees, then Starlink's not going to work. And this happens mostly in caravan parks where you can't choose your park, and they just place you somewhere. Sometimes they'll place you somewhere where Starlink's not going to work. So we pull that out so we get better signal through our modem. And you could explain the whole data plan that you're using. You've got it all rolled into
so
one.
I've got it all where we switched to Telstra purposely because they have better coverage across Australia. We don't bother having any other kind of SIMs or anything like that, but we have a shared data plan. So we have like 200 gigs of data a month, and that's shared between Brett's phone, my phone, and our Nighthawk as well. So
doesn't matter which one we use it on, which is a pretty neat little trick.
we've only run out a couple of times when we've had to use it for extended periods because we couldn't get Starlink or Starlink was broken.
Yeah, we have had Starlink break and we went back to it. So having a backup is quite useful as well.
Yeah, you can always hotspot on your phone as well.
It depends how much you need your internet. If you're just casually traveling and you don't have to work and you have no commitments to stay connected, just hotspotting from your phone is probably enough, and having signal when you have it is really
fine.
good. It's nice to be disconnected at times.
Yeah.
But for us, with our work and school requirements, we need our Starlink, and we also need a backup in case Starlink doesn't work.
So, yeah.
It's a pretty straightforward one to answer, that one.
Yeah, pretty easy, that one.
What are the must-see places when caravanning around Australia?
All of it.
This is a hard one.
There is a lot of really cool places to see in Australia, and it's kind of hard to say what is the must-see part of Australia. How about we'll just circle between each other on the things that was the coolest, and we can think, whilst one's answering that, one can think for the next one. I'll go first because I've got a good one to begin with. The Gibb River Road was the most incredible adventure. We enjoyed it so much. We saw so many cool things. Tunnel Creek was probably the coolest experience. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Tunnel Creek was probably the most incredible experience that I've had traveling around Australia. And I think if you have the capabilities, doing Gibb River Road should definitely be on your bucket list. Have you got one, darling?
I do. For me, all 4 points, visiting the most northerly, the most southerly, the most westerly, the most easterly point, was true. Each one was kind of an adventure in itself, just getting there. And just to experience that was something that I'm very privileged and lucky to be able to do.
For what's the word? To explain, we've only just finished that.
Yeah.
We only did Steep Point like 2 weeks ago, so
for that, it's kind of really, really something that, you know, most of them are hard to get to. There's only one that's super easy, and that's in Byron Bay. So but those were all little adventures into themselves, and, you know, to do that and tick them off is really something special.
It's really hard to cut this down to just 3. What are the must-see things? Tasmania, and in particular the Central Highlands in Tasmania, Cradle Mountain, climbing Cradle Mountain and exploring and seeing around Cradle Mountain, and that camp that we did at Lake Tungatina in the Central Highlands in Tasmania, that's something that I will never forget. It was incredible.
Well, for me, it's the Barossa, definitely. All the wine vines.
And what Barossa is your favourite winery region, is it?
Barossa is Margaret River is really good too, but I feel like the Barossa definitely has, and Adelaide Hills have something uniquely onto themselves. And one of my favourite wineries still is from our first trip there is Two Hands. So Two Hands Winery, has to be the nicest one I've gone to, but just the whole region, it's got such a foodie, winey culture, and I just love it.
I don't know how to go for number 3. I would say that inland Australia is so underrated and so incredible. It's the coolest thing to see in inland Australia. The sunsets, the scenery. I can't really come down to something specific. However, maybe Mataranka. If you're going to be travelling up the Stuart Highway, you have to stop in at Mataranka and go into those thermal springs. I could list 20 things that were incredible in Australia, and maybe if I had more time to think, that wouldn't be number 3 if I was to do it in an order. But we're going to call it that because otherwise we'll sit here all day. You get one more.
Mine is just being able to experience nature how it's intended to be experienced, like being able to see emus, and lots of emus in the wild, kangaroos, koalas.
Our first thorny devil the other day.
Seeing quolls, like just being able to see nature how it's intended to be seen, watching it in its own habitat, even just your crazy little kookaburras, like just watching them in their own element is something that's truly magical to watch and sit and see. And that's something that I never would have experienced not leaving my little bubble of the Gold Coast. Like black cockatoos, we know their sound off by heart now, which is my favourite bird. But I can hear them from a mile away because they're so unique. But I never would have known that if I hadn't have gone out and experienced this country in its wildest form.
That was a tough question. It was really hard because now I'm thinking, I forgot about some other things.
Yeah.
The Ningaloo.
Yeah. There's all these
Cape York.
There's all these places.
South Australia. South Australia is so underrated.
Yeah, I
the
love
beaches,
South Australia.
Warralty, Paluvi. Anyway, we're going to have to move on.
We could go about.
Sorry if we missed some of the best parts of Australia.
Yeah.
How do you handle caravan maintenance and repairs on the road?
Well, things are always breaking. We do our best to try and share that experience. I mean, we don't travel around in brand new equipment, brand new caravans. We did just get a new car, but until recently, our old car was constantly having faults as well.
But the other thing too is when stuff breaks, we used to just fall into a pit and be like, we don't know how we're going to fix this or how we're going to deal with it. It was really difficult in the beginning. Now we're just like, okay, how we think we're going to fix it, right? Let's do it.
Find the manual, look it up, find the part, order the part, go to the supplier, get it sent out. You'll have to get things posted.
Yeah, because you can't carry everything. And then there's all these other things too, like we've got the new thing on the wall. How many days since something's broken? Because that's literally how it feels like sometimes.
If you're not handy, you're going to quickly learn to be handy because you're going to need to repair a lot of things. Living in a home that's moving and bouncing up and down results in a lot of things breaking.
You become good at thinking outside the box as well of how you're going to fix things, because sometimes not everything's available to you. You might have to do a dodgy fix until you get to the next place.
But then there is your routine maintenance, which is worth touching on as well. You should be servicing your van as frequently as you service your car, so around every 10,000 kilometres. You need to find we find a service provider. We don't do it ourselves.
No.
And we can give some advice with that. It's to read the reviews because not all service providers are built the same.
Yeah, not all of them are
and
good.
The ones that are good, so you want to go in and read the reviews, and if they've got good reviews, then you can go and book yourself in with them.
And if they've been recommended too, we've been recommended certain caravan service people from different states because they were so good. So
the advice I was going to try and say is you need to be planned ahead on that. The good service providers will be booked out 2 to 3 months in advance. So you need to be thinking 2 to 3 months in advance, where am I going to be and is there a good service provider in there, and calling them up to make your booking because if you call 2 weeks in advance, they're not going to be able to get you in.
Yeah. So that's always something.
I think we handle that question all right?
Yeah, I think so. It's really important, to go around and check everything too. I'm always checking.
Perfect, yeah.
Checking things inside. I'm checking the drawers because those handles get loose and things. So always checking the nuts and stuff to make sure they're on tight.
That's right. And check your tyres. Make sure your tyres aren't wearing unevenly. Uneven tyre wear is a sign of either a serious issue or that you need to get your van's tyres aligned. Same with your vehicle. Wandering around and checking on things is a really good point.
Yeah, not just doing your moving day checks, but, just checking random things as well, because the littlest thing can turn into a disaster.
All right, what's next, ChatGPT?
What's the best way to manage water, electricity and waste while caravanning?
Water, electricity and waste.
That's a good one.
All three of them.
Well, one thing we did learn early on is that you have to retrain yourself, and we had to retrain the children for everything. So when we're off grid, we're in water, power saving and everything mode. So, and you have to change how you do things. So for electricity, retraining the children, we charge things during the day, not at night. For water, it's using hand sanitizer for ones, washing your hands for number twos. For waste, the toilet, not using 10 tons of toilet paper.
Yeah, training the children to not fill the cassette with toilet paper
Yeah,
was a fun one. But I was thinking, let's just try and be pragmatic about it. Let's tackle water.
Water.
All right. So again, wiki camps is our goal for this. It's our guide. Pretty much moving between every camp. It's getting a bit monotonous now, to be honest. But Mel's in the passenger seat. She's on wiki camps. She's looking for a water fill place.
Whether it's before we get to camp or close to camp, so we're not carrying that much water.
Yeah.
We always have some water in the tank, obviously, if we have to stop, and the drop toilets are disgusting. I won't use them. But obviously we still carry some water. But yeah, if there's nowhere near camp, we'll get it before we get there.
You need a bunch of accessories to be able to get water. So if you can get one of those little tap handles that get you into the ones
that
have
it's like
the
a
locks
cross,
on them.
yeah, like the Bunnings ones.
You'll need fittings, you need hoses. We filter our water. We use the BEST filter, although I'm considering trying a different brand at the moment because we're ready to replace it.
Yeah.
I'd like to get one that's not disposable.
Yeah, one that's a bit better.
Does that pretty much cover water?
It pretty much covers water. We also have a water bladder, and we also have a car
perfect.
tank.
Yeah, that's a good thing to talk about. So we have 100 litres in the car and a 100-litre bladder. And when we're at a camp and we don't want to move, we just take the car and we fill up the car tank and the water bladder. We can move 200 litres of water, so we can fill our van back to full.
That means we could shower every second day.
And we don't have to live like cavemen if there's a water fill supplied nearby. I suppose talking about where water is as well. When you're remote, you do need to think about it and you need to plan your water because there's not always going to be water nearby.
And you don't want to be putting bore water through your system.
Another very good tip. We've just had to replace our hot water system and they basically explained that the bore water is what killed it. So we now will avoid getting bore water into our system if we can.
Yeah.
That's a lot of little tips just on water. What comes next? Electricity?
Electricity.
So your solar system. This is another case of how long's a piece of string. We have 450 watts on our van and we have 300 amps of battery in the van. We've got 450 watts on our new car and we've got 200 amps in the battery system. The car has kind of changed our life because we didn't have as big a system on the old car, and that meant that if we got overcast days and we had some bad weather, we were doing things like literally not watching TV or using our computers because we just didn't have the power to spare. So for a family of 4, between us we've got 900 watts of solar and 500 amps of battery. It's spread across the 2 setups, which is actually really good in my opinion. Because
we basically use the car like a generator. We plug the Starlink into it and charge our computers off of it because we know if we're going to go driving, the car will charge back up faster than the Caravan will.
So what was I saying? 900 watts of solar, 500 amps of battery. It's enough for us as a family of 4 to sustain ourselves using computers daily. Kids are on their computers, Mel's on her computer, I'm on my computer editing. We don't have a lot of appliances. We've got no cooking appliances, no hair dryers, as you can probably tell, things like that. We do a lot of off-grid camping. We prefer to stay off-grid and in quieter places like this rather than caravan parks, which is why we need our power setup. If you were to prefer caravan parks, I would suggest you go with a smaller system because that would leave you with more payload in your caravan.
We also use solar lights and things like that because we find them better at night. The kids have a solar nightlight each, so they're always putting them out the window, charging them.
So we do our best to be very frugal with our power. It's just our computers and Starlink that's
But we also have
changed
how we charge as well. So we charge fan's full, what needs charging? Let's charge everything now.
Yeah, so whenever we're at 100% power, we're doing the run around to find the things that need charging.
Yeah, and we charge everything up.
And getting them all topped up.
Yeah.
So the last one, waste.
Waste.
Oh, that's a fun one.
The toilet.
Hey girls, you know you can empty toilets too?
We do take it in turns.
That's how we do it.
Somehow it always works out that he's got to dump it when it's like a disgusting, there's no water to rinse it out with point.
if we've gone remote and we have to kind of extend our life out there, we only have the one cassette.
Yes,
right? So if we are remote, we'll do a bush wee where we can.
Yeah, not
and
often.
That will make the cassette last longer.
But otherwise,
can you say that here on the internet, or is it people going to Are we going to get cancelled?
We always make sure that if we've stopped somewhere for getting groceries or whatever else, everyone goes to the toilet before we leave the shop. So we try and do that. So that as soon as we get in the car, the kids aren't, oh, I have to go to the toilet. We were just at the toilet.
That took some training. Nothing will upset a dad any more than being whinged at the back because they need to go to the toilet 5 minutes after you've left the rest area.
So many days of that. But yes, no, that's taken some retraining.
We survive on the one cassette. We make it work.
Yeah.
There's dump points around the place. Most rural places are going to have a dump point. It's when you get into the cities that it can be harder to find a dump point.
We've had to pay to use a dump point in a caravan park because there was nothing. When we were on the
They're like in the big cities. I don't know why there are no dump points.
On the Gold Coast, there was none close to us.
Perth didn't have any. We had to drive
way out the back. So and I just rang up a caravan park and they're like, yeah, $5. Or sometimes they're like, no, we'd rather you come in and dump it. Feel free to buy a coffee here or something. But
in all the remote towns and places like that, they all do have dump points, and it's really not been. We've survived with one toilet cassette without any dramas.
I would love to have two, but
it's a case of like when we change camp, as Mel said, Mel will be sitting there, passenger princess, and she'll be looking up water and dump points, and that's just part of our cycle.
As well as rubbish as well. We need to go through that. We try and
usually it's all in the one spot.
Yeah. Which is handy.
Does that answer your questions, guys?
That answer your question, guys? Hopefully that helps.
Don't cancel us for admitting to doing the odd bush week, please.
Please don't.
I think we're up to number 10.
How do you ensure safety and security while caravanning in remote areas?
Well, this is an interesting one.
Safety and security in remote areas. I've never really felt unsafe in remote areas. It's more in towns and places that have a reputation.
That we've been told you have to lock everything and then you feel a little unsafe. Even though the place is probably fine, it's perception.
As we've mentioned, read the reviews and you can dodge some bullets, but in some places you can't help it or you're going to stay there and you didn't expect it. And the reviews will usually tell you if there's crime going on in the area. So one of our things that we do in places like that is we'll stay in a caravan park rather than in a free camp or somewhere where there might not be people around or security around.
Yeah.
And there's that reason, the other people and the security reason, but there's the fact that in the caravan park you're hooked up to power. And the reason why you want to be hooked up to power is you can leave all your windows closed
and run your
aircon. And the reason for that is, I don't know if you can see, but fly screens up there, the thieves, they'll just push those fly screens in, they'll reach around, they'll
obviously we have
grab
kids
whatever
as well,
they can.
So we're very conscious of, trying to go places where it is safe for them.
And so, for example, Alice Springs, we read the reviews on, because at the time, last time we went there, it was known to be going through
and they had a curfew going on.
So it was known to be a bit dodgy. So we read the reviews. We found the caravan park that had the best reviews, that had a security person wandering around.
Yep.
We followed the protocols of leaving all of our windows closed and running the aircon, and we didn't have any dramas and thoroughly enjoyed our time in Alice Springs and exploring
didn't make us
around
feel
the
unsafe
area.
at all. It's just an annoyance sometimes when you've got to unlock one tunnel boot to get something.
So that's your security thing. I think we've never had this experience, but if I ever felt uncomfortable at a free camp, I'd just trust my gut and get up and leave. Yeah. So far in over 3 years now, not once has that happened.
We've driven into places and been like, nah, we're not going to stay here because we haven't got a good vibe. Maybe there's too many permanents or tent camps set up, and maybe some paraphernalia around that the kids are going to pick up. Not
that was an unsafe reason for leaving. We just didn't like the vibe of it.
Yeah, so that's the only real reason. Obviously for security, we lock all the tunnel boots. If we're leaving it at a Coles, we will lock all the tunnel boots and going to do shopping. We'll lock all the tunnel boots, keep all the windows shut. We'll only have the fan running inside. Obviously at night we lock the door. We had to train the kids not to unlock it. They thought it was funny when we first started to unlock the door.
Well, I think the other aspect of this question is communication.
Yeah.
So when you're remote, what if something goes wrong? When we first started traveling, we had a PLB, a personal locator beacon. So if something ever went wrong, we could flip that and in theory the cavalry would come and look for us. You hear that people who were lost out in the desert or out in the mudflat somewhere, they had a PLB that saved them. So yeah, we had a PLB, but these days we've got Starlink. So if we ever needed to communicate because something's gone wrong, we could boot up Starlink. So communication in remote areas isn't such an issue.
The other thing too is I run an app called Polar Steps that tracks where the car is. And I update it every day. If I don't update it for more than 3 days, I'm getting a phone call from the parents who can pretty much work out where we were.
So the alarm should be raised if something did ever happen to us.
So I kind of have that as like a lame backup, but obviously your friends and family know what you're doing, and you obviously keep in contact with them. And if you're like, oh yeah, we're going off grid for a few days and they don't hear from you, they're obviously going to be concerned and try and track you down if you've got good family.
But if you don't have that, then you just need to be connected. If you don't have Starlink, probably recommend that you get a PLB. I think
safety as well. Like, so we have children. The school's done a program on stranger danger and safety. They obviously heard about it when that little girl was taken, so obviously they're a bit more concerned. They're always near us. We can see them. So, and if they ever feel uncomfortable or something's going on, they know to come back to us. So just teaching your kids as well about safety and, you know, things to be aware of and what to do. You know, we've just been trying to teach them road safety when they're riding their scooters, and that's an interesting, because they're like just off looking this way and I'm like, driveway, car right there, you need to be looking where you're going. So it's just you teaching your kids.
For young kids, they're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've tackled all 10 questions from ChatGPT. It's top 10 questions that people want to know about travelling around Australia. I hope that we've done something that's been useful for you. I hope you've
gained some knowledge or learned something maybe.
Our experience now, because we are no longer spring chickens to the caravanning Australia scene. We've been doing this for quite a while. So we do know a few things, and it's our hope with this channel to kind of share that information and help people get started.
We learn as we go along as well, learn new things, and it's always learning, I think, always changing and adapting.
So with that, guys, I think we'll wrap up this video. Hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll catch you on our next adventure.
See you on the next adventure, guys. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching, Van Fam. If you'd like to help support our channel, you can do so by visiting our website at www.sfedos.com.au and shopping at our online store. If you'd like to watch another video, YouTube thinks you might like this one here.